of Goods and Services for the City of Chicago. We work together as a team and with our customers to guarantee an open, fair, and timely process by establishing, communicating, and enforcing superior business practices. The city has 6 certification programs. We have the first 4, which are our local programs, the MBE, the Minority Owned Business Enterprise Program, the WBE, which is the Women Owned Business Enterprise Program, VBE, which is a Veteran-Owned Business, the BEPD, which is the Businesses Owned by People with Disabilities. The last 2 programs, which is the DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and the ACDBE, which is the Airport Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprise programs. Those 2 are our federal programs. What we do, the DPS is committed to providing information, resources, and tools to assist you in your efforts to compete for City of Chicago contracting opportunities. We accept and review new applications for certification. We also review the no change affidavits and recertification applications, which is required every 5 years for the local program. We also do contract compliance with negotiated contractual participation goals for the M, the W, the V, and the DBE programs. We also set standards for contract participation for all of our programs. And we also assist vendors through our websites, thecityofchicago.org/procurement. That's our Department of Procurement website. And this chicago.mwdbe.com, that's the website where you'll find where you'll do your online application. Some of the benefits of certification is that it provides visibility. So once your firm is certified, you're listed in a directory which is accessible to the general public. So anybody can access that directory and look up a service, and if your firm is certified, your firm in a certain code, it'll pull up on there. There's also minority, women, veteran, and disadvantaged business participation goals on City of Chicago projects and sister agencies. So there might be sister agencies where you would like to do business that may also accept the City of Chicago certification. There's also businesses in the private sector that seek out certified firms and can look up in our directory and find you in that directory. The City of Chicago also has a target market program, which provides exclusive bidding to the certified minority and women-owned business enterprises, which allows the certified businesses to take 100% of the contract because there's no subcontractor goals associated with the project. So if you see something out there that comes out and your business is certified and you feel that your business can fulfill that contract 100%, that would be a benefit to you. Do you qualify? The qualifying groups are the African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, Native Americans, women, veterans, and people with disabilities. Other individuals who can also prove that they're socially and economically disadvantaged who aren't in one of these qualifying groups may apply and state what circumstances they've encountered that prove social and economic disadvantage, and then a decision could be made about that qualification. The VBE program, a veteran in this case is a person who has served in the United States Armed Forces and was honorably discharged or separated. So they had to be honorably discharged. The veteran must provide the DD-214 and or the DD-215 as supporting evidence. If the vendor does not have their DD-214 or their DD-215, they can contact the Veterans Administration to obtain that document. Other certification requirements. So the firms must be a local business. The principal place of business and the majority of the full-time workforce must be located in Cook County, DuPage, Kane, Lake, McHenry, or Will. And the local business applies to the local program, which is the M, the W, the V, or the BEPD program. For the DBE and ACDBE, which is the two federal programs, the firm's headquarters can be anywhere in Illinois. 51%, the firm must be 51% owned, controlled, and managed by the minority, the woman, or the veteran, or the person with disabilities. For the DBE and ACDBE, the 51% ownership must be owned by somebody who's socially or economically disadvantaged. Another requirement is the business size standard. So for the local program, the gross, which is the M, the W, and the VBE program, the gross receipts of that firm for non-construction firms must not exceed 39.9 million, which is an average over 3 years. Construction firms, we would look at the gross receipts average over 5 years. For the DBE program, the size standards is subject to the SBA size standards, which is averaged over 3 years, not to exceed 23.98 million. And the ACDBE, that size standards not to exceed 56.42 million average over 3 years for most firms. Some exceptions do exist. I'd like to go back real quick to the construction firms, subject to the SBI size standards averaged over 5 years. That's specific for construction codes. And for example, an electrical firm would be subject to the SBA size standards, which is 16.5 million, which is obviously less than the 39.9 million average. We also look at the personal net worth standard. So that's for the owners. For the M, the W, and the VBE, that threshold for construction companies only is 2.3 million. And we evaluate the personal net worth annually. For the DBE, ACDBE, the threshold for the personal net worth is currently 1.32 million. And that's adjusted periodically by the U.S. Department of Transportation. Keep in mind the calculation for the personal net worth standard does not include the value of your primary residence and the interest of your of the applicant firm or certified firm. There's several types of business structures that qualify. The first is a sole proprietor, and that's typically owned by only one person, and that person has no legal existence apart from and that business doesn't have any legal existence apart from that person. Typical documentation we ask for this business is assumed name certificate if the firm's operating in a name other than their own. The general partnership, this is typically 2 or more people who go into business together without any formalities. We ask to review the partnership agreement and ensure that that partnership agreement is executed by all owners. Another structure is the corporation. A corporation is treated as an entity completely separate from its shareholders. It allows others to invest in the business without being liable for the debts of that business. Typical documentation we look at is the firm in good standing with the Secretary of State? We ask for articles of incorporation, a certificate of incorporation, bylaws, copies of all stock certificates that are issued. The copy must have the front and back, and meeting minutes. Limited partnerships are more like stakeholders in a corporation. They're not liable for the debts beyond their own contribution. We ask for the assumed name certification or certificate of limited partnership. An LLC, which is a limited liability company, is a partnership that has a managing member or partner, and we ask for the operating agreements and the articles of organization. The next 3 slides, I'll be talking about the suppliers, distributors, and brokers, and manufacturers. They have their own set of guidelines, and a supplier must be a regular dealer, which is a firm that owns, operates, or maintains a store, a warehouse, or other establishment in which materials, supplies, articles, or equipment are bought, kept in stock, and regularly sold or leased to the public in the usual course of business. Firms operating as a distributor are identified as having a direct relationship with the manufacturer to distribute its goods and products within a specified territory or region. The goods and/or products are not available or sold to the general public. Firms acting as a broker are not eligible for the local programs, but can be eligible for the federal programs. So the definition of a broker in this case is a person or entity that fills orders by purchasing or receiving supplies from a third party supplier rather than out of its own existing inventory and provides no substantial service other than acting as a conduit between his or her supplier and his or her customer, is considered a broker. So for example, if you're a vendor and all you're doing is placing orders for your customer by, ordering online from Home Depot and having it drop shipped to your customer, um, that would be brokering. That would be an example of brokering. Our application is online. Again, the website is chicago.mwdbe.com. The application fee for the local program is $250. There is no fee for the DBE, ACDBE, or the BEPD. For the people with disabilities, there is no fee either. Upon submission of the application, you'll receive an email invoice. So once you submit your application, we'll take a look at it, see if it's enough information for us to receive it, then you'll receive an invoice. And once you receive the invoice in your email, you'll pay it. There's instructions on how to pay it. And then it'll be assigned to certification officer to review. There's city payment centers, and we accept certified checks, cashiers, money orders, credit and debit cards. And then on the second page of the invoice, it has a website to make the online payment. Some of the other information that we look at that's important is your contact information. So online, please ensure that your contact information is up to date, especially your email address, especially your phone number and your mailing address. When you're applying for online, you want to select all of the applications. For example, for the local program, if you're a minority and you're a woman and you want to apply for both, you would select each of those and we would review that separately. If you also want to apply for the DBE program, for example, which is separate because it's a federal program, you need to submit a separate application. And a lot of the same information will be requested, but you're still going to have to upload it separately because they're two separate programs. The BEPD certification, that requires Schedule G form, which needs to be completed and submitted with your application and also approved by the mayor's office of people with disabilities. Again, the BBE certification that requires the DD 214 and or 215. We also ask for ownership information, employee information, facility, financial information, and licenses. So for facilities, we may ask for the lease. For financial information, it might be tax information. And for licensing, if your business is required to have a license, a professional license or a business license with the city of Chicago, that needs to be up to date, current, and provided in the application. Other eligibility documents that we ask for are resumes. So that's really important to include everything, everything up to date, everything that applies to the specialty codes that you may be asking. It's important to know what your experience is there. We also ask for evidence of executed contracts, again, signed by both parties. So we may ask for a contract related to a specific code, what type of experience. Please ensure that the scope of service is provided or the scope of work is provided in there. And then we may ask for invoices or proof of payment for those invoices for the services that were provided. And it's okay too if your business is new and you may not have contracts or invoices. Other evidence may be accepted too at that time, because we do certify new businesses. We also ask for driver's license, birth certificates, proof of equity contribution. So this is important too, because equity contribution is the initial startup money that you provided to the firm, and we are interested in where that money came from. So a copy of a bank statement from like your savings account, transferring the money to your business account, that would be something that we would look at. Also, who's the signatory on your business bank account, organizational charts. And if your firm doesn't have a formal organizational chart, we have accepted written, drawings stating who's like the president and the CEO or different positions within your organization. Equipment listing, this may apply if you're a construction firm. This is interesting to keep a list of that, because that list would show us, for example, if you're a snow plowing company, we would pay attention to if you actually have the equipment to provide that service. Loan information we ask for, we want to see who is on the loan. Is it the owners or is it somebody else? Financial documents that we look at, and this we analyze for various reasons. 3 years of federal business tax returns for non-construction firms, and for the DBE and ACDBE, the federal programs, we look at 3 years of federal business tax returns, 5 years for construction. We also look for 3 years of federal individual, so that's your personal tax returns, and we look at 5 years for construction firms. We ask for the 4506-T. That form is just, we request that information because maybe we want to validate the tax information that you provided to us. We also may ask for W-2s and 1099s. That could be for you or that could be for your employees. Initially in your application, it would be for you. For the personal net worth statement, that needs to be completed for all construction firms and all new DBE and ACDBE firms. And that's a template where you drop in all of your assets and your liabilities to get what your personal net worth is. After your applications are submitted, the application review process can take about 90 days from the day that the certification officer receives all of the documents. So that's not starting at the time that you press submit to us. We would receive it and bill you, and then the certification officer may have some additional requests for information. So that's when the time starts. Your application is also checked to make sure we have all of the documentation. Documents are thoroughly audited. You may receive a site visit. In general, all construction firms will receive a site visit. All federal program applications will receive a site visit. We also do site visits for suppliers and manufacturers, trucking companies, and other specific businesses. So if your business is approved for the local program, which is the minority, women, veteran, and businesses owned by people with disabilities, your certification is valid for 5 years. So every 5 years, you'll go through a recertification process, like I said. But annually, you'll do a no change affidavit. Real quick, for the no change affidavit, that's done annually for all of the programs. But if something has materially changed within your business, in your organization, such as ownership, business address, you need to notify this department as soon as possible, no later than 10 days after the change. We do have a somewhat expedited process. It's more abbreviated than expedited, and that's the recognition of outside certifications. If your firm is already certified by CMSDC, which is a Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council, or WBDC, which is the Women in Business Development Center, there's an abbreviated application. So we require less information than the standard application. And so once you're going through C2, which is the website, the portal for the application, you'll follow the decision tree that will bring you to this outside certification. So you're in the correct application and providing the correct information. Again, all vendors must submit an annual no change affidavit, notifying us within 10 business days of any change, and all MWV BEPD vendors must recertify every 5 years to maintain their certification. If your business is expanding, so you want to expand the certification codes, you have to submit your request on company letterhead and complete that application online. You want to include the North American Industry Classification System codes, which is the NAICS codes. You want to include the number and the specific category of what you want to expand to. And then you want to also provide the supporting documentation that you have that experience and the technical experience to provide those codes, those services. And then if the code requires a license, you want to provide a copy of the license. Again, you also want to substantiate with contracts, a current resume, and any additional insurance that might be necessary for that code. So this is a listing of the sister agencies that also may accept the City of Chicago certification. Cook County and the City of Chicago have Reciprocity. So if you wanted to work on Cook County contracts, you do not have to apply separately for their WBE or MBE program, and vice versa. the top 10 reasons applications are denied. So if there's questionable ownership and control, or if it's unsubstantiated, you may be denied. There's unclear description of the critical functions and who's responsible. So that owner needs to provide enough evidence that they have that they are in control of the critical functions of the firm. The company can't substantiate where and or how the startup funds or expansion capital was initiated. That again is the equity contribution. If the owner has outside secondary employment that takes up the majority of their day, and that may be questionable. And that's not to say that if you have another job that you won't get certified. We just have to understand how you're able to manage the applicant firm. If the company is not located in one of the 6 county regions for the local programs, you would not qualify for this program. The point of contact did not respond to requests for information in a timely manner. So when we request information through the portal in the Q&A section, we'll give you enough time to respond. And if you're not responsive at all, if you need more time, just let us know. But if you're not responsive at all, we may deny your application or close your application. If there's inconsistencies with the firm's name among various documents, we may question that. And if you aren't able to explain that, then you may be denied. Also, if there's problems with contracts, if it's missing, incomplete, if it's not signed and executed, or if you're unable to prove that you were paid for that service, you may be denied. Also, required documents are not attached or no explanation is given as to why they're not available. Also, if the tax returns were not submitted, signed, we may ask you to submit them again, but please note that we understand a lot of tax returns are being filed electronically. Just go ahead and sign it because it's going to get returned, and just hold up the review process. And that's all I have. So if there's any questions that I can answer.
All right. Thanks so much, Regents, for that presentation. And we're going to go straight to the questions. The first question that was asked is, what's the protocol for certification during the COVID-19 closure?
Well, we're still accepting applications. For the most part, we're working remotely. So we're still reviewing and trying to keep to the process.
Okay. Our second question is.
Let me just specify though, there is for site visits, we are holding site visits, but it's either via FaceTime or Zoom or however the field analyst arranges it with you.
Okay. All right. The next question is, it's kind of lengthy, so hang with me here. I performed as a 1099 independent consultant and recently transitioned to a LLC. Considering certification, can I use my past performance as an independent consultant once certified toward future contracts as an MBE to meet the performance requirements?
Yes, actually, we do encourage that you provide all of the information related to your business. So, for example, if you're a new business, but you've been operating as the consultant, we would still look at your individual tax returns and also your business tax returns. But yeah, include all of your experience on your resume. and that will be considered.
So the question is that the person formed the LLC in March. How do they address the financial statement requirements?
Yeah, so as a consultant, you're a 1099. So you would report that on your individual taxes. So we would look at that. It would probably be on one of the supplemental schedules. I think a Schedule C is where that you would report your 1099. And we're looking at that to evaluate the gross receipts portion in the size standards. We're looking at that. So is that what you're asking?
Well, the person would have to continue to ask the question, and we'll pick it up at
Yeah.
the end.
So in general, we would look at that. We would look for that 1099 information in your individual taxes. If you're a new business, and we would just look at your current tax returns. You obviously wouldn't have tax returns if you weren't in business as an LLC previously. And you can explain that too in a narrative if you like.
Are the home-based businesses allowed to apply for certification?
So home-based businesses we do certify home-based businesses. Just ensure that you have the proper licensing for your business, and that would be through the city of Chicago, the BACP, Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. You can contact them to ensure that you have the proper licensing.
All right. If applying for multiple certifications, are we required to pay for each cert, or can we apply for each cert on one application for $250?
So there's one application fee. If you're a minority and a woman, you would just pay one $250 application fee. You wouldn't pay for each. For the local program, for the federal program, that's free and you don't have to pay any fee.
Would federal Fannie Mae loans HUD consultant fall under construction company requirements for the application process? Would a federal Fannie Mae loans HUD, which is HUD, consultant fall under construction company requirement for the application fee?
I don't understand that question.
I guess
So, what is the question?
I would hope that the person clarify if they're asking if they're a federal Fannie Mae HUD's consultant. They're an actual HUD consultant, and they wanted to do business. Is that what?
Well, if there are construction codes or construction codes, if you're a consultant for a federal agency doing non-construction, or is it you wouldn't qualify for the construction?
If we didn't answer your question, feel free to send it again directly to us again, and we will try to answer it fully if we did not answer that question.
Or you can email me directly too.
Yeah,
I don't think I understand that completely. Sorry.
If there's additional information that needs to be provided as well with that. Does professional services need site visits?
So professional services generally don't for the local program, but we do site visits for all federal DBE, ACDBE applications. But generally not. We don't do site visits for the local program. Professional services.
Does CMSDC recognize Chicago MBE, WB?
You would have to go and ask them. I believe they still have their own certification. You would still have to apply for their own W and MBE certification. I'm not sure if they accept ours.
Okay. Regarding a new business, what would be some examples of other evidence beside contracts? Since it is a new business, there will not be any at the time of application.
So, what we typically would look at is a resume, what your experience in the NAICS codes you're asking. We would also look if there's licensing. How did you get that experience? You just need to help tell the story and substantiate where, did you receive training? Do you have the education? Do you have the certifications, certificates, things like that?
Okay, there's quite a few people piggybacking off of that new creation of a business question. So, if they were created in the year 2020, can we still qualify for the MBWE status? Go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
we do certify new businesses. So again, you just need to tell your story and help substantiate as much as possible your technical expertise in the codes and the specialty codes you're asking for. Or, I mean, maybe you worked previously, your previous employer, we would look at your resume. What is your experience there?
Um, Kind of piggybacking off of that same question, since it is a new business, will there be any? Will there not be any at the time of application? Oh, that's cut off from another question. Sorry. Let's see if there are any more questions. Part of the new business question, um, they said that they don't have 3 years of federal tax returns. No, I'm sorry. We don't have 3 years of federal tax returns. Will that disqualify?
No, if you are a new business and haven't filed federal business tax returns yet, that's okay. You can just state you're a new business. We'll see that too in maybe other documents, but just on a written, do a narrative explaining you're a new business when you started, and then you can sign it. But you should provide the federal individual tax returns, because you should ideally be filing taxes every year.
There's one more that says, how would we fill out the application where they, as for contracts, etc., do we fill out N/A?
If something doesn't apply to you or your business, just explain why it doesn't. And then if the certification officer has more questions later during the review, they will ask specifically what they need.
All right. Are there any additional questions that we have at this time? We'll give it just a second because somebody might be typing in the question if they are. Um, there are just a couple of more. This was very helpful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Um, If you're currently in business for 3 years, but business is slow, will that affect the application?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
If you have been in business for 3 years and business is very slow, will that affect the application?
If you've been in business for 3 years, uh, and it's slow, you could just explain that, but it shouldn't. It depends on the certification officer. I mean, I don't know all the specifics as to why, there it's been slow, but there could be potentially. But um, I mean, that would depend on the certification officer, what other documentation they might be looking at.
All
But
right. I'm sorry.
in general though, it shouldn't. We have a lot of applications where they're, zero gross receipts for the first few years.
Okay. Is that all?
Oh, I see a question about, I'm able to see the questions now. I wasn't able to see them earlier. Evidence of ethnicity, what qualifies as evidence of ethnicity? So you have to sign a sworn affidavit, and you will select your ethnicity on, check the box type thing. But we also look at, we conduct a site visit. We also, we'll look at your driver's license. There's birth certificates that, note the ethnicity of the parents. Those are some of the types of things we look at.
There was also a question about the NAICS code. When asked to list the NAICS codes with services listed, it says stating generality will cause delay. Um,
Well, so when you're listing the NAICS codes, yeah, be as specific. So there's going to be what we sometimes call an umbrella code. That's the big code. And then there might be sub codes with description, the same code with sub descriptions. I would go through and see if there's a more specific description that applies. But if you do qualify for the umbrella code, um, then list that code.
okay, great. And I think that piggybacks to the last question. Should I list the code by code or be detailed with each commodity I list?
So each NAICS code, if it's the same code, if there's like 2 or 3 subcategories, just go ahead and list it in your application. And then obviously if it's a different NAICS code, you'll list that one and so on. And then during the certification officer's review, they'll decide, just make sure it's specific to your business, what your business does. We see a lot of times where there's so many codes that the applicant's requesting, what exactly does your business do? That should be the code that you're requesting.
All
That's
right. If
okay.
there are no additional questions, we want to thank you all so much for giving us your time to take part in this presentation today. Again, this PowerPoint and as well as other PowerPoints are on our website at www.chicago.gov/DPS. If you want to find any additional information about anything that we do at procurement, you can find more information over there as well. Thank you so much for attending. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, and let's make sure we're wearing our masks and washing our hands. Take care, and we'll see you at the next presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.